He was once the most powerful man on American cable news. With a net worth of over $25 million and a multi-million-dollar estate complete with a private wine cellar, he had both a Rolls-Royce and a Ferrari in his garage, but the car he cherished most was an old Honda Civic. And the story behind that modest little car might just surprise you. People once admired him for his sharp, commanding voice, but they also criticized him fiercely when scandal struck, forcing him to leave Fox News at the height of his career. And yet, what makes Bill O'Reilly truly remarkable isn't the controversy or the fortune, it's the way he weathered it all and came out stronger. A man who once lived under the glare of millions of viewers every night quietly chose to hold on to the quietest parts of his life. What would make someone that prominent choose to live like someone invisible? In a neighborhood where most kids dreamed of a steady job and a quiet, stable life, Bill O'Reilly, an honor student and standout baseball player, quietly nurtured a dream that didn't sound like anyone else's. He wanted to be heard by all of America through a television screen. What made a boy like that choose such an unusual path? Was it his upbringing, his family, his friends, or something deeper? We're about to find out. Born in 1949, Bill O'Reilly grew up in Fort Lee, New Jersey, before moving to Levittown, Long Island, a post-war suburb where rows of identical homes symbolized the rigid norms of America's working-class middle. His father worked as an accountant for an airline, commuting daily into Manhattan. His mother, frugal and strict, stayed home and raised their two sons with traditional Catholic discipline. They weren't poor, but life wasn't easy either. Every dollar had to be stretched, and feelings often came second to duty. And yet, somewhere inside that steady routine, something sparked in young Bill a different way of seeing the world. Though he was a star baseball player at Chaminade High School, what excited Bill most was reading the morning announcements over the school intercom, or standing in front of the class to present a news article he'd just read. He didn't just want to be part of the conversation, he wanted to lead it. He didn't just want to follow the news, he wanted to be the one delivering it. But could a teenager from Long Island really believe that television had a place for someone like him? A turning point came when Bill crossed paths with Billy Joel, another local kid, one who was wild, musical, and destined to break the rules. One boy chased rebellion, the other chose to understand the rules, then rise above them. One wanted to make people cheer, the other wanted to make them fall silent and listen. And inside a house where everything was measured by discipline, Bill began to believe his voice could be the key to something greater if only he learned how to use it. But would he have the patience to hold on to that dream, knowing the road ahead wasn't paved with promises? Back then, television was a world ruled by polished faces, flawless diction, and the right connections. Bill didn't have those things, but he had one thing that mattered more: the will to step into the arena on merit alone. In the 1970s, television belonged to polished faces, smooth voices, and picture-perfect resumes. Bill O'Reilly didn't have any of that. What he did have was something harder to define. He didn't believe in waiting for doors to be opened for him. Instead, he kicked them down, and while that path set him apart, it wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't a path most people could follow. Bill began his professional life with a degree from Marist College and a teaching job in Miami. The salary was steady. The life was safe, but something inside him remained unsettled. After school hours, he wrote, read the news, and eventually applied to the graduate journalism program at Boston University. That may have been the first moment he truly bet on himself, leaving behind a secure path to chase something no one could guarantee would come true. His first on-air job was at WNEP-TV in Scranton. It wasn't glamorous. He did everything from weather reports to editing footage to writing scripts. Some days, he wore 3 hats before lunch, but it was there that he learned how to handle a camera, adjust lighting, and most importantly, master the tone and rhythm of his voice. Who would have guessed the man hunched over a weather map was quietly preparing to report on national politics? Step by step, Bill moved up next to WFAA-TV in Dallas, where he earned his first award from the Dallas Press Club, then to KMGH-TV in Denver, where he won his first Emmy for a report on airline hijackings, and a second for a series on undercover police work. For the first time, the name Bill O'Reilly wasn't just a newsreader, it meant investigation, confrontation, and the kind of reporting that made audiences sit up and listen. In 1982, he was recruited by CBS News, but just a few years in, a dispute over a news credit in Buenos Aires pushed him to leave. His blunt, independent style didn't always mesh with network protocol, and Bill was never one to pretend just to stay in line. The turning point came at a funeral. Joe Spencer, a former colleague and respected journalist, had passed away. Bill was asked to speak. No teleprompter, no edits, just honest words about friendship, journalism, and the importance of truth. Sitting quietly in the audience that day was a senior producer from ABC News. A few weeks later, Bill was invited to join ABC. This time, he didn't apply. He was chosen. From a local weatherman in a small town, Bill O'Reilly became a primetime voice on one of the largest networks in the country. So, what made him different? Not his looks, not connections, but a will that didn't back down even when the world refused to make room. When Bill O'Reilly joined Fox News in 1996, few could have predicted that this blunt, unflinching journalist would go on to create the most influential cable news program in America for nearly 2 decades. The O'Reilly Factor wasn't just a news show, it was a phenomenon. With a direct, razor-sharp delivery, sometimes polarizing, Bill turned each segment into a gripping exchange that viewers couldn't turn away from. The show drew over 3 million nightly viewers and held the top spot in cable news for 15 consecutive years, an unmatched record in primetime journalism. From that success, Bill became more than a host. He became a brand. His books topped every bestseller list. His podcast drew millions of listens monthly. Speaking engagements, publishing deals, and media partnerships brought in a constant stream of revenue. By 2017, his annual income was estimated between $18 to $25 million, with a personal net worth reaching up to $85 million, largely from television contracts, book royalties, and his podcasting empire. But as anyone who's ever reached the top knows, staying there is the real challenge. Every night he went on air. It wasn't just to deliver the news, it was to defend his own voice in front of millions, and weather criticism from the opposing media. When success becomes expectation, every word becomes a wager, and Bill played that wager for nearly 20 years. With it came the wealth, the homes, the cars, but all of it tells only part of the story. How does a man really live after the lights of the studio dim? For someone who earned more than $85 million from broadcasting and publishing, you might imagine a lavish, high-profile lifestyle. But Bill O'Reilly's relationship with money reflects something else entirely. In the quiet, affluent suburb of Manhasset, Long Island, where discretion defines status, Bill owns a $3.4 million home. Not a palace, but a fortress built for his principles. The house is neoclassical, understated, yet deliberate. Every detail mirrors the man himself. Orderly, practical, and private. Behind the home is a gently curved swimming pool nestled among tall evergreens, a buffer from the noise of the world. It's where Bill reads not politics, but historical novels, the kind that deepen reflection and shape the stories he writes. The kitchen is equipped to professional standards, yet Bill is the one cooking. He still makes his own eggs, toast, and brews his coffee just the way he has for over 30 years. Downstairs, there's a small wine cellar brick-lined, kept at a crisp 58 degrees. He's no socialite, but he values an evening with old friends, where one good bottle can take a conversation further than any primetime interview. And his home office. Nothing flashy, just a dark wood desk, a few family photos, a stack of manuscripts, and the recording gear for No Spin News from this quiet room. He runs his podcast, pens his killing series, and interviews guests as if he never left the national spotlight. If real estate reveals your way of life, then a garage reveals your essence. And Bill's garage doesn't just store cars. It reveals a man who lives in fame but moves through life by his own rules. There's a $460,000 Rolls-Royce Phantom that rarely sees the road, but when it does, it's for very specific occasions, speeches, charity events, or picking up a longtime colleague, not for show. As Bill once said, for someone who was once doubted for not being refined enough, I like setting my own standard. The driver's seat is stitched in black leather. The glove compartment holds a thin leather notebook and an old Mont Blanc pen where he jots spontaneous ideas. Behind the seat hangs a dark sweater, folded the way he used to before every broadcast. The car isn't there to impress. It's there to remind him how far he's come and why. On the other end of the spectrum, a Ferrari F12 Berlinetta worth over $300,000, a gift to himself after one of his books topped the New York Times list. On quiet Sunday mornings, he'll drive it down the coastal roads, jazz playing soft in the background. He calls it conversation time with myself. The passenger seat, red leather. The glove box, a self-burned CD labeled Sunday Mix No Talking, filled with soft saxophone instrumentals. Always riding shotgun, an old faded cap with Factor embroidered on it, a relic from the early days of the show. But the most surprising car in the garage, an old Honda Civic, still running. Bill uses it for errands around town, groceries, visits to the bookstore. No one notices him in it, and that's exactly how he likes it. Inside, the dashboard is worn. The radio barely picks up more than a few AM stations. Tucked into the windshield is an old photo Bill and his son, fishing on Long Island over a decade ago. In the glove box, a folded receipt from a local bookstore, still creased. I don't drive this because it's cheap. He once said, I drive it because no one looks at me twice. And for someone who's been on TV every night, that's a luxury. Being famous is easy. He once told a small crowd at a book talk. Being ordinary, now that's the hard part. He doesn't flash the luxury cars, but he keeps each one because each marks a milestone, a news segment that won an award, a book that outsold expectations, a headline that accused him, then proved wrong. His garage doesn't shout, but if you listen closely, each engine tells part of the story. Bill O'Reilly's face was once on millions of screens every night, but his personal life, that's not part of the broadcast. He doesn't use social media, doesn't post family photos, rarely attends media parties. After every taping, he drives home, closes the door, and returns to a life governed by his rules, quiet, disciplined, untouched by outside noise. For decades, he's collected antique maps and American history books. In his home office hangs a large map of the United States dated 1861, the start of a nation divided. To him, it's not just decoration, it's a daily reminder. Media can unite a country or tear it apart. When he's not broadcasting, he's reading. When he's not writing, he's studying. His books are full of penciled notes, margin marks like each page is still a draft. Bill doesn't live to be seen. He lives to keep understanding and to defend his right to say what he believes. He may debate all of America on screen, but off-air, he chooses silence. Bill married Maureen McPhilmy, a public relations executive. In 1996, the same year his rise at Fox began. They had 2 children, Madeline and Spencer. Though the marriage ended in 2011, Bill has always insisted that being a father comes before everything else, staying connected, listening, and shielding them from public scrutiny. In interviews, he rarely mentions them not from distance, but from respect. "My family didn't ask to be in the spotlight, and I honor that." He admits to being a strict father, but also one who listens, especially with his daughter Madeline. He once said, "She taught me something I never learned hosting a show sometimes, to be heard. You don't need to argue." He was once the most powerful voice on cable television, but what happens when that voice is suddenly called into question by the entire world? In 2017, a bombshell report surfaced. Bill O'Reilly, the most watched host in America, had reportedly paid tens of millions of dollars to settle multiple sexual harassment claims. It came at the peak of the Me Too movement, and overnight, his name became the center of a national firestorm. Fox News, the very network that had built him into a household name, terminated his contract. For many, it looked like the end of the road. The man who had spent decades questioning others now had to answer the one question he'd so often asked: "Are you still worthy of being trusted?" But that wasn't the only controversy in his past. Years earlier, Bill had come under intense criticism for referring to Dr. George Tiller, a physician who legally performed late-term abortions, as a baby killer on air. Though O'Reilly never called for violence, when Tiller was later assassinated in 2009, public attention turned sharply toward Bill. He denied any responsibility. But for the first time, many began to wonder, can a single word absent of malice still spark hatred in the wrong hands? For Bill, it was a bitter season, but it also marked a turning point, a moment where he had to step away from the empire he once led and start over. Instead of disappearing, he launched No Spin News, an independent podcast, free from network oversight or corporate filters. He kept writing, he kept speaking, and he went on tour with figures like Dennis Miller and Donald Trump, though no longer part of the mainstream media circuit. He retained a fiercely loyal audience that still tuned in, still listened. No one forced him to apologize, but he did, not to appease anyone, but to prove something deeper: that sometimes apologizing doesn't make you weaker, it allows you to keep speaking. At 70, Bill O'Reilly knows the true cost of power, but he also understands this: only those willing to acknowledge their mistakes still have the power to inspire. So after all this, what remains? The money, the scandals, or something deeper, something that lingers long after the headlines fade? When the studio lights go out, what remains for Bill O'Reilly? It may not be the echoes of a television broadcast, but rather a deeper question. What did you use your voice for? From a boy growing up in a quiet New Jersey neighborhood to becoming the most watched political commentator in America, then falling amid controversy, and rising again to build a media platform of his own. Bill's journey isn't one easily defined in black and white. His career didn't just produce the O'Reilly factor, it left a lasting mark on cable news itself, blending sharp commentary with political analysis to draw millions of viewers each night. Controversial, certainly, but few would argue he redefined how America engaged with the news. And even off the air, his presence endures, lined across bookstore shelves, with over 15 national bestsellers, from Killing Kennedy to Killing the Legends. But perhaps Bill's most meaningful legacy isn't in ratings or royalties. It's in his resilience. When criticism hit hard, he didn't retreat. When the biggest stage was taken away, he built a new one, No Spin News, to keep speaking on his own terms. In his personal life, he chooses quiet, no flashy purchases to shape his image, no grandstanding to win favor. A strict but devoted father. A man who collects antique maps, as if to remind himself daily that history is fragile and easily rewritten. The lesson he leaves behind: that no one is perfect, but anyone can make things right, if they're willing to face the truth, and that a truly powerful voice is one that takes responsibility. What about you? Have you ever faced a moment where you had to start over? If you have, share your story in the comments below. Someone out there might need it more than you know. And if you want to keep following real stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss the next video.